What's going on, everyone? Tuesday morning. Hope you had a good long weekend. Hey, this is some of the hardest reading we've done, so we'll take it rather slowly. I think we'll finish today, but I do want to go over some of the terms that we went over. Was it 4 or 5 days ago, something like that? So, yeah, because we had NWA testing, so it's been almost a week. So let's review a couple of these things. I think there's like three that I think would be helpful before we get into the reading of, remember, Three Cheers for the Nanny State, those big sodas, and how New York City was at one time trying to make them illegal. You'd have to get a lot of small sodas if you want the same. They thought that it would stop people from drinking so much soda. But we talked about status quo, and that just means like what is happening right now. Don't change anything. Nothing in the past, nothing in the future. It's just like what's happening now. And we'll talk about one of the biases our brain has where we tend to like the status quo. We fear change. We're going to get to that present bias in just a minute, but the status quo, it's just what's going on right now. It's hard to explain because there's like nothing going on. It's like the opposite of something. There's no change happening. Hopefully that helps. And then we had this thing we learned about that a lot of humans have, or some of us might have more to a degree than others, is that optimism bias. That means, hey, bad things aren't going to happen to me. And I didn't say it, I don't think, to all classes, but I also think this is kind of helpful because if you think about it, I mean, danger for us potentially lurks around every corner. I mean, just getting here to school, I mean, we know car accidents happen all the time. So I think part of this optimism bias like helps us get out of our house, but too much of an optimism bias, it can be damaging. And I use the example of the soda, not the soda. I mean, soda to a degree, but cigarettes. So a lot of people will start smoking, think they can stop. I got a buddy, I think I've told you about him, very smart guy, went to Georgetown, works on Wall Street, makes a good living. But he started smoking in high school and he started like, hey, I'm just going to smoke on the weekends. Okay. Why even bother? It's expensive. It's not worth it. And then I don't know, a couple months later, I remember it was like a Wednesday or Tuesday. He was like, man, I could really go for a cigarette right now. Yeah. That nobody starts smoking thinking like, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. No, they trick you into it, with the vaping, with the cigarettes. So cigarettes, I think, have become, I think most people know like, oh, that's bad. But then the vaping, it's like, that's how they get kids hooked and, wasting a lot of money, wasting your health, whatever. You're young. Optimism bias, right? Not going to happen to me. Okay. Hopefully you never, I was just too cheap to ever start smoking, right? Plus it's nasty and whatever, but hopefully you're the same, but whatever. Adults and parents can say it all day long and just, whatever. You got to do you, but hopefully you don't. All right. Present bias. This is going back to that status quo thing. And one of the things that I remember the present bias with is if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So we often fear change. You're going to be going to you're going to be visiting the high school within like a couple months. And then you'll be at hopefully the new high school a few months after that. But like in April, we're going to start talking about your high school classes and stuff. And there are going to be a handful of people that are like, man, no, I don't really want to. I'm just good here. I'm just good with middle school. But I know that a lot of people are ready. You're all ready to go, I'm sure. Like, let's go. I think you'll like high school better. But just some people like, I'm comfortable here. I know my teachers, getting to know a whole bunch of new teachers, a new building. It can be daunting. People might just want to stick with the status quo. That's that present bias. Like, could be worse. Sometimes you have to ignore it. Sometimes it is worse, but not for high school. I think you guys will like it better. So let's get into some of the reading. And then, like I said, hard reading here. And I think the hardest of the year so far. So I will make myself small. We will talk about this word imprudent soon. I need my glasses. We stopped on paragraph 11. Okay. So the crucial point is that in some situations, it's just difficult for us to take in the relevant information and choose accordingly. It's not quite the simple ignorance Mills was talking about, but it turns out that our minds are more complicated than Mill imagined. I keep calling him Mills, Mill imagined. Like the guy about to step through the hole in the bridge. We need help. So as we read this, and I think it's going to be really obvious, it's going to be kind of obvious in the last paragraph that we read that this author is presenting a ton of facts to us, a ton of facts, right? Like, yes, we sometimes suffer from the present bias, but then they are going to kind of slip in their opinion every so often. And that is so important for us to realize, like separating the facts from the opinions. Some authors don't like to put in their opinion. They don't want to cloud the reader's judgment, but sometimes they will slip it in because they are trying to prove a point. And so in this last paragraph, we need to be cognizant of that. We need to be aware of that. Okay. They use cognizant in the article, so I wanted to use it in real life here. All right. We are on paragraph 12. It is always a mistake when someone does something imprudent, when in this case, a person chooses to chug 32 ounces of soda. No, for some people, that's the right choice. They don't care that much about their health, or they won't drink too many big sodas, or they just really love having a lot of soda at once. So I don't think there's any like opinion here. That's definitely true for some people. But how about this? Imprudent, maybe we should talk about that word. And I have a right there, imprudent. It's like doing something without thinking. I think it's very close to like impulsive. If something is imprudent, it's not for your best health. It's not in your best interest. Okay. Imprudent. Hopefully that helps. Not a word you'll see very often, but I mean, we got some other, like they're even going to mention cognitive inheritance later on. All right. Back to this reading. 13, right? I think that's where we ended, 13. But the laws have to be sensitive to the needs of the majority. That doesn't mean laws should trample the rights of the minority, but that public benefit is a legitimate concern, even when that may inconvenience some. So they're talking about the majority. They're saying the laws should follow the majority, but not at the detriment or not hurting the minority. So the laws should focus on the majority of people that will benefit, but don't have a law that if somebody is in the minority, they're just absolutely going to get crushed. Okay. So they mentioned inconvenience. It's the opposite of convenience or convenient. Convenience. Think about convenience stores. They're usually right on the side of the road. They're like super easy. If you're coming home, like maybe your parents, because you're not driving quite yet, but maybe you're walking. Actually, Heathcote's. Didn't somebody hit Heathcote's? I read that somewhere. But anyways, like Heathcote, it's a convenience store. It's just like super easy. You can pop in, pop out. It's not like a Walmart or something where if you're going into that store, you're committed. You're probably going to be there for quite a few minutes. Convenience store, get in, get out. Who knows, maybe a minute or less, hey, just grab a soda. Uh-oh. Luckily, there's no law against grabbing a soda. But so if it inconveniences someone, it makes somebody's life harder. All right. More of this. Tough stuff, I think. But we are actually like almost done. Not too much longer. Okay. All right, 14. So, do these laws mean that some people will be kept from doing what they really want to do? Probably. And yes, in many ways, it hurts to be part of a society governed by laws, given that laws aren't designed for each of us individually. Some of us can drive safely at 90 miles per hour, but we're bound by the same laws as people who can't, because individual speeding laws aren't practical. Giving up A little liberty is something we agree to do when we agree to live in a democratic society that is governed by laws. How about this, though? 90 miles per hour. Yeah, some people probably could on a regular basis drive at 90 miles an hour. But can you imagine, like, if somebody loses control of the car or gets into an accident? Like, I don't know. I think it's hard to survive, though, a crash at 90 miles an hour. A lot easier to survive a crash at like 35. Even on our highways, 70 is the speed limit. I might sometimes go up to 80, 79, push it a little bit. I've never gotten a speeding ticket, though, in my whole life. 15 is where we ended, right? The freedom to buy really large soda all in one cup is something we stand to lose here. So this is where the author's opinion starts coming out. And so hopefully with that last sentence, you can think, like, with the author's tone, the way they are writing, what they're writing, you can think like, oh, they don't want this law. So they're sliding that in. They start off with a bunch of facts about the brain and then, oh, hang on. Maybe this law isn't for everyone. Maybe it does more damage or takes away liberty, freedom from people. Okay, so be aware of that as we finish this up of the author's opinion. For most people, given their desire for health, that results in a net gain. For some people, yes, it's an absolute loss. It's just not much of a loss. Of course, what people fear is that this is just the beginning. Today it's soda. Tomorrow, it's the guy standing behind you, making you eat your broccoli, floss your teeth, watch PBS NewsHour. You can see the footnote there. It's a news. I mean, it sounds like what it is every day. What this ignores is that successful, paternalistic, anytime you see paternal, think fatherly. Maternal would be motherly, are done on the basis of a cost-benefit analysis. If it's too painful, it's not a good law. Making these analyses is something the government has resources to do, just as it sets automobile construction standards while considering both the need for affordability and the desire for safety. So this is going on a little bit long. I can't even highlight here. I don't know why it does that. But cost versus safety, sometimes, things could be a lot safer. We just don't have the money to do it. Do we care so much about health that we want to be forced to go to aerobics every day and give up all meat, sugar, and salt? No. But in this case, it's some extra soda. Banning a law on the grounds that it might lead to worse laws would mean we could have no laws whatsoever. In the old days, we used to blame people for acting imprudently and say that since their bad choices were their own fault, they deserve to suffer consequences. Okay, so again, their opinion is going to creep in, okay, right here. Now we see that these errors are not a function of bad character, but are shared cognitive inheritance. I do want to focus on that for a second. Shared cognitive inheritance. I have a banner for you. Man, that's some big words right there, right? It's a big topic. Shared cognitive inheritance. Shared, what we all have. Cognitive, we learned about. That's something with the brain. Inherited. Inheritance. You get it from your ancestors. They're talking about those biases, right? That all humans kind of tend to do certain things. All right, man. This is well, luckily we got one last page here, but I think reading or having this really difficult stuff read to you is going to make you become a better reader. Who cares if I'm a better reader? Well, still in high school, there's quite a bit of writing and reading that you have to do. Really difficult stuff too. Science, social studies, some of the hardest reading, to be honest. Hey, I'm not sure if you ever, and this is going long, but Chat GBT. Have you heard of that? It's where like it's pretty good. Even like today, right now, it's pretty good. I can't imagine what it's going to be in like 5-10 years, but it's an AI program that will write scripts for you. It will write like papers for you. Apparently somebody, because I was worried at one point, like it's so hard to tell when people are plagiarizing anyways, but if an AI is just developing it on their own, apparently somebody created an app that can detect I don't know. I read that. So there's that kind of war with it, artificial intelligence. and then the other side of the coin where it's like, this could be hurtful for us. So who knows? Maybe they won't take over. Maybe there'll be some kind of safeguards in there. But all right, this is going on long, 15 minutes. I think it's important stuff, though. Okay, here we go. Last one. Yeah, last paragraph right here. A lot of their opinion comes in here, I think. That's what the government is supposed to do. Help us get where we want to go. It's not always worth it to intervene, but sometimes where the costs are small and the benefit is large, it is. That's why we have prescriptions for medicine. That's why, as irritating as it may initially feel, here's their opinion. Soda regulation is a good idea. So see how it's just like kind of embedded in there? Like you might miss it. So just know that this kind of whole article has been written with the slant of, yes, we should ban large cups of soda. It's hard to give up the idea of ourselves as completely rational. We feel as if we lose some dignity, but that's the way it is. And there's no dignity in clinging to an illusion. All right. A lot of reading there. Okay. There is the Google form. The last question, I think some people might need a little bit of help with. It's the first time we've talked about in this class with author's tone. A lot of tone is opinion in there. So take a look at that last question. If you need any help with that, let me know. I think if you've watched this the whole way through, you'll have an idea of what the opinion is. So, all right. The rest of the class, if we have Frank and Beans time, cool. If not, I would love to give you the rest of the time. Work on the study guide. Work on any work that you might have due for the second quarter. Second quarter is going to end here this Friday. You'll have all next week to get in work. Essays are coming in, a little over half, but it's a big grade. And then if anybody is not done with the NWA, it's going to be nice and quiet in here. There will be a password and ID on the board. Feel free to take English, or if you want to take math. There's only two, tests you can take. So if you need to finish up the math for Ms. Began, you can take that in here too. Okay, a long one, a difficult one, but hopefully you learned a little something. Adios, amigos.